basically, the Iraqi Scuds couldn't hit a bull in the butt with a bass fiddle. I used to say Washington, D.C. is the only place you can run 10 miles in a straight line and still be at the scene of the crime. We did not lose the war, as far as I'm concerned, in Vietnam. We betrayed the Vietnamese people. I'd never been involved in an unethical act or an illegal act any time that I'd been to combat. The 3 different times I'd been to war. You know, the home of the 2 largest adult daycare centers, the Congress and the Pentagon. I resented people that claimed the Army were baby killers. It's men of character. Duty, honor, country is what this is all about.
You've just seen a glimpse into the heart of a true American hero, General Norman Schwarzkopf, who we'll be talking with on today's episode of Candid Conversations with Great Americans. Hi, I'm your host, Matt Daniels. If you want to understand the character of Norman Schwarzkopf, you must begin here at West Point, one of the 2 great influences that forged one of our nation's greatest leaders. Norman Schwarzkopf excelled here, leading his fellow cadets on these famous parade grounds, and the values of this place were so deeply imprinted upon him that he made the motto of West Point the credo of his entire life. His Brigadier General father, also a West Point cadet, was the other great influence on Norman's life. At the age of 12, Norman left behind everything that he had known as a young boy to join his father, who was serving on extended military duty in Iran, an experience that uniquely prepared him for his later role in Desert Storm.
When I was a small boy, my dad was in the New Jersey State Police, at the head of the state police, and he was sort of the role model for me. Everybody in the state of New Jersey, it seemed like, worshipped him. And then his military, when he went in just prior to World War II, so it was just really sort of a hero worship type thing because he was so well thought of by everyone. I mean, my dad was the type of person that everybody liked, and he had an element of toughness about him that clearly there was a message there that, don't tread on me type thing.
What is this sword?
This was my father's sword. In those days, and I remember he graduated in 1917. In those days, every officer, when he was in formal formation, carried a sword. So this was presented to my father when he graduated from West Point. My father had his own private den, and hanging on the wall in the den was this sword. And it was something that was almost sacred. So when he found out he was going to Iran, he was home for his last visit before he left, and he called me into his study and said, "Come in here." And he reached up on the wall and took the sword down and said, "Now you're the man of the house, and I'm depending upon you to take care of your mother and your sisters while I'm gone. And as a symbol of the fact that you're the man of the house, you now have my sword." And he gave it to me. Well, you can imagine what that was, the moment meant to me. I mean, I was the man of the house. I was the person that he was depending upon to take care of Mom and Sally and Ruth Ann.
Now, was your father proud to see you graduate from West Point?
There's no doubt in my mind that was the proudest day of his life.
Now, duty, honor, country is the motto of West Point?
Right.
What does it mean to you?
It means everything. Duty, honor, country is the code by which I chose to live my life. And that's do your duty with honor in service to your country. And every difficult decision I've had to make in my life, I find that I always fall back to duty, honor, country. And that points me in the direction I want to go in. When somebody shoots at you and you shoot back at them, that's okay. You understand that. But when a mine blows up and there's no way to retaliate, that's very, very difficult.
In this television series, we explore the character of great leaders from every sector of American society: sports, music, business, politics, and the arts. But character means nothing if it's not lived, and real character is a living example to others.
Anytime anybody was wounded, I needed to be evac, I would immediately fly to the scene, turn my helicopter over to them, and they would fly out. If I sent them right away, to the hospital in that helicopter, it took 30 minutes to get there. If I had to use medevac, I had to wait for it to fly from there down to here 30 minutes and fly back more for 60 minutes. So it was just a standard procedure. Anytime anybody was wounded, I needed to be evac, I would immediately fly to the scene, turn my helicopter over to them, and they would fly out. And what happened was one of the companies, Charlie Company, had wandered into a former area of some sort, probably a former night defense position where people had planted mines and had not picked them back up again. And one young man was wounded. So I flew to the scene immediately to get there. And about that time, another troop stepped on a landmine. And there started to be panic that set out. So I was worried about the panic, but there was a soldier who had also had a very serious injury. His leg was broken and broken very badly. And he was flopping around and crying, and I was afraid that he was going to cut a blood vessel in his leg and he would bleed to death. And so I realized that nobody else was going to go over there, and therefore I had to go over there. So I walked across the minefield.
Were you shaking?
Yeah, my knees were shaking to beat the band. I actually had to reach down and hold my knee. Every step I'd take, I'd have to hold the knee, expecting at any minute for the knee to blow up and that sort of thing. But I finally got to the soldier. I was able to lie down on top of him, but in the meantime I looked back over here and there was a tree with a little sprigs on it, and I needed some kind of a way to stabilize the leg. And so I went back to my fire support coordinator and Tom Bratton, and I said, Bratton, reach down there, cut that limb off, and throw it over here so I can use it. And Bratton took one step, and boom, terrible blow, right there. And you got to understand, I would have been standing right there if I hadn't gone out into the minefield. So, fate plays some tricky deals with you. Because if I hadn't chosen to go out to the minefield and take care of that young man, then I would have been back there where Bratton was and walking around and everything else where the big mine went off that caused so much damage to him. One of the most moving things that happened to me, though, was I had been wounded in the chest and had to be medevaced. I had to get in my helicopter and fly back to the hospital to have them sew me up a little bit and probe a little bit. But anyhow, I also went looking for Bratton. And when I found Bratton, I said to him, you son of a bitch, I'm telling you right now, you're going to live. You understand that? You are going to live. Now hang in there, be strong. I know you're going to make it. But I was cussing him out and saying, you better make it. And he said, I will, sir, I will. Yeah, I will, So I felt pretty good about that. And as I walked out, an African-American sergeant, non-commissioned officer, came up to me and said, sir, I want you to know that you will never have any problem from the African-American community. We saw what you did today, and the fact that you cared enough about one of us to go out there and risk your life, you won't ever have to worry about a problem.